Hello and welcome to this quick video about the Webster method, which is used to calculate the distribution of seats after an election. This method is also often called Z-Lagu method and used in Germany for the federal elections. And I will use the preliminary results of the 2025 election to show you how this method works. As background knowledge, you should know many parties participate in this election, but only the important ones are allowed to get seats in the parliament. What this attribute important means I have explained in the other video about the German election. Here you can just remember, roughly speaking, you have to get 5% of the valid votes. Indeed, only one party has an exception of this rule because it represents a national minority in Germany, and it's called SSW. Hence, only these 7 parties can get seats in the parliament, so only the votes for these parties count for the Webster method. So we just count the valid votes for each party, put them into the table and calculate the total sum of votes. And now it's important to note that the size of the parliament is fixed. We should have exactly 630 seats. So 630 seats should correspond to these almost 43 million votes. In other words, it's simply a rule of proportion and we can just calculate a divisor. Just take the number of valid votes for the important parties and divide it by 360. And then what we get is a number that is roughly 68,000 votes. Indeed, it's appropriate to round the divisor to an integer because now it means that 67,979 votes represent one seat in the parliament. In this sense, the rule of proportion tells us that we have to take the number of valid votes for the given party and divide it by d. And then we almost have our distribution of seats because, as you can see, the results are fractional numbers. Hence, the only thing we have to do is to round these numbers to an integer, and we use the standard rounding, which means we round down if we are below 5 and we round up if we are 5 or higher. So the first one is 120, then we have 85 and so on. So this is quite nice, but the problem you might see is that because of the rounding, the total number of seats could be less or higher than 630. In fact, in our case here, we get 631 seats, which is not correct because the seats in the parliament are fixed. So the conclusion in the Webster method is now that the value of one seat was wrongly chosen. This means one seat should be worth more than our chosen number of votes here. So you can just say that we increase this divisor step by step until something changes. And maybe to choose a nice one, let's put it at 68,100 and do the calculation again. And there you can see the numbers change a little bit, and here we have to round down now. Which means calculating the total sum of seats again gives us the correct number 630. And that's already it. This is how the Webster method works. We just calculate with the divisor, and if it does not fit, we have to increase or decrease depending what the result was. And now for this election in 2025, you see the number of seats for each party in the parliament. So have a nice day and bye bye.